So if you look traditionally at the security industry for the past couple of years, what we found is that most of the security today is focused around the perimeter. And what that means is that, we're looking at mainly outsider threat. And by outsider threat, it's more around viruses, malware, hackers, the traditional activities that we're used to actually looking at and hearing about in the media. But what we feel is that the biggest threat today is really the end user within an environment. Because the end user right now is more empowered. And with the proliferation of new technologies in the past couple of years, cloud computing, bring your own device, the users become a little bit more empowered. And with that empowered comes a level of responsibility. And with that level of responsibility, they are more prone to bring more risk into the environment. Well, I think the level of risk exists across all industry, but I think some industries are more prone or more sensitive to that level of risk, and the financial industry being probably the topmost in that space, given the nature of their business, given the nature and sensitivity of the information that they currently hold. So what we've seen is that the financial industry over time has been heavily regulated, and with that has come the need for additional measures in order to help mediate that risk. So what we do is that we have a sensor-based technology, meaning that we have a sensor that we put inside a corporate environment, and this sensor, what it does, is intelligent enough to collect data. And as we collect data on the network, we start profiling users, and we start determining who these users are in the network, and then we start associating all these activities. So me as a user on a network, I would tend to do browsing, I would tend to use certain specific applications, transfer specific files, and we start capturing a lot of this information. And then as we start capturing this information, we start benchmarking to try to understand what the behavior of that user is over time. And then once we determine that behavior, then we apply anomaly detection algorithms to that. The security tools per se have existed since the beginning of time. They just come in different forms. The data itself has always been monitored to a certain extent. So system administrators, IT managers have always collected logs as an example. The biggest problem they've had, they've been real-time logs, there's been a flood of information. It's been hard for them to make it actionable. Now from a policy and privacy point of view, we draw the line at a certain level, meaning that even though we look at specific patterns, we're not looking at every single packet that goes through. What we try to is to identify, for instance, URLs that people are accessing. We're not looking at the content itself of people, of what they're actioning itself. So we do limit it, but nevertheless, our technology is actually very powerful, and it can go really in depth if we need be. But what's important to note is that at the end of the day, we are a toolbox, and it's really up to the company to determine to what extent they want to go and investigate or understand user activity. And that's based on their internal policies. And of course, there's government regulation that comes into play as well. But I'll give you another example, which is actually really specific to the financial industry. It's something as simple as keyword searches. By law, in most countries, and by compliance, companies are required to do keyword searches, for instance, over email, to understand if there's any risks or anomalies in conversations that, let's say, traders are having, maybe to protect them from insider trading. This, for the most part, is a manual process. So a compliance department come up with 20, 30 keywords that they feel are risky, and then they have someone searching every single mailbox for anomalies or patterns that match these keywords. What we've done is we've said, you know what? Well, we can actually automate this for you. Given that we have a good understanding of what's happening in the network real time, we can look at this in real time. And every time a packet of information or some information traverses the network, we can actually do an inspection of that packet or that message and see if we can flag this keyword. But we don't limit it to email. We actually open up to every single application, single communication. So just from an ROI perspective, just look at the human capital that's required in order to safeguard the company. We are able to automate that, and not only that, but extend it beyond just email, and only that, do it in real time. So that's a very simple use case that's very specific to regulation right now in the financial industry sector. I mean, the security won't go away. I mean, as we bring more technologies, we empower more the user, the more risk we bring to environments. As we bring more technologies, then of course, there's more means to address the risk of these technologies as well. So it's an ongoing cycle where it's like a cat and mouse game, right? And that will never end. It's up to companies like us to really figure out ways by which we can adapt to the industry trends. And that's probably the hardest part. Now, going back to big data, I do believe that, in order for us to be successful, we have to look at big data in the sense that we need to look at beyond, the firewall. We need to look at behavior and what's happening in the environment itself and try to look at it from more perspectives.